The testing grounds are For Honor's way to test things the developers are not sure on, and sometimes the best way to get the data you need on something is to give it to the populace and have them test it for you for literally just free. One thing I'll give credit to the team though is For Honor's testing branch isn't a separate game you need to download and actually just exists in the live game, so, you know, credit where credit is due. For the last couple testing grounds, they have been really underpopulated and overall severely dogged on for just the overall bad changes or changes that majority of the community do not want in the game. Peacekeeper and Berzerker had what I call their failed testing grounds, where nothing made it to the live game after days of testing. Warren's was in fact the only hero to actually go through perk testing grounds and actually have it go to the live game, with minor changes. Now the time has come again to test out not one, not two, but 4 heroes in the testing grounds. Berzerker and Peacekeeper are seen again making their return with adjusted or completely different feats entirely. Then there's Centurion, with something I'll say out the bat looked really interesting, and Shinobi, which I'll say again out the bat looked like something that needs to be fired for even suggesting to the team. Well, instead of just dogging on these feats without playing the game to test them, join me in the pits of 10-minute fucking queue times to hopefully even play just enough matches to showcase all of these heroes at least once. Wait, do I even have— I don't have the feats!
You didn't even equip the feats.
Oh my god! Oh, what? And just for the sake of my sanity lost in these games queue times, a sub would really show you appreciate what I'm doing and would mean a lot. Anyways, let's get started with the good and end with the bad. Centurion is a character that has had his meta-defining feats be the same since his launch. I find it very hard to find anything more valuable than Bounty Hunter or even Pugio in slot, and let's be real, Centurion without Haymaker just feels wrong. This is why I believe the testing grounds focused on feats are sometimes a good idea. Sometimes heroes don't need moveset changes and just overall need more options to choose from their feat categories. So let's see if any of Centurion's new feats can find any value or even outvalue his existing feats. Tier 1 was definitely an odd one. Upon guard breaking an opponent and doing the Lion's Roar, aka the triple punches, Centurion will knock down the target after the animation is finished. Now I can't lie, a lot of this feat was me fighting muscle memory for the last 7 years of playing this game. When you do a guard break on any hero in the game, the last button you're really pressing is light attack. But to be completely honest, I kinda like it. I mean, obviously it's a pretty strong thing being 30 damage guard break punishes or highest damage in the game possible from a guard break, but you need this feat to compete with Bounty Hunter, so I think it's honestly a fair matchup. Tier 2 is where we get a little weird with it. Upon landing Eagle's Talon, you gain a speed boost and anyone around you on the enemy team has their attack debuffed. The speed boost is whatever. I mean, if it didn't exist, it wouldn't make much of a difference. I'm not pouncing on someone and then running away like I came home without the milk that time. But keep in mind, this feat in slot is a direct replacement to the powerhouse that is Haymaker. Now I get it, if Haymaker existed beside the first feat, a 45 damage guard break punish would be insane. But maybe instead of speed boost, make it a 10% defense increase for Centurion alone and make it viable in a team fight. Tier 3 is Pugio, but just better. No, seriously, there's no downside or upside to new Pugio at all. Upon landing Pugio on a target, if you follow up with a kick, it will knock your opponent down, allowing you to jump on them. Now this is supposed to synergize with his tier 2 feat, but let's be fucking honest here. I'm using Pugio to get a quick kill with my heavy attack, or even just to lock someone out of popping revenge. Having an entire feat with the sole factor being that it links up with the tier 2 feat, for me just is not enough of a change for me to look at Pugio differently. Lastly, tier 4. I mean, it's Phalanx, but kinda worse. But with some things that make it better than old Phalanx. To go into more detail, new Phalanx on Centurion loses its full map effect and reduces shields by 50%, while also having the added bonus of doing things like cleansing debuffs. But the issue I'm having is that it's actually just a worse version of Phalanx across the board. Yes, it can be the only thing in the game that cleanses the hated Warmonger corruption, but if you're using Phalanx to counter Corruption Blast already, the old Phalanx already does that job by just tanking all the damage. Overall, if I had to rate Centurion's new feats on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have to go with like a 6.5 to 7. I think they're really cool with certain ideas that could be worked upon that aren't actually game-breaking or game-ruining, but playing Centurion without Haymaker and Bounty Hunter after years of indoctrinating myself just feels wrong and makes me feel dirty. Listen, there's nobody in this world that is a bigger D1 hater of Shinobi than I am, so when I saw his feats getting changed, I had a lot of mixed feelings. Overall, I didn't have a problem with any of his feats. Okay, maybe one of them. But I will say Shinobi's feats are kind of just stale. If you play the game and your feats just coexist beside you, it's just really boring. And I hate that I'm gonna say this, but I actually sort of enjoyed his feats. I know, I should be burned at the stake for these claims, but let me just run down them anyway. Tier 1 allows you a deal. Upon completing Sickle Rain, you gain a damage buff. Now on paper this seems like you're being buffed for simply playing the game, but it's actually way deeper than that. If you complete Sickle Rain, you put yourself in neutral frames, aka if you try to spam anything, your opponents could do the same thing, and you would trade or lose depending on what move you chose to use. But if you cancel Sickle Rain early by backflipping, you're putting yourself in frame advantage, meaning if you go for your 50-50, then your opponents cannot interrupt you in time. I think it's super healthy and invokes a question of, is this damage boost worth giving up my frame advantage? It makes fighting with this tier 1 in your mind way more thoughtful. Maybe you're winning a fight so you can actually give up frame advantage for a damage boost, or maybe you just really need to apply that pressure. So there's a good plus minus for each choice you make. With this feat, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's actually pretty good. But the positivity is going to take a halt for just a little bit. Tier 2 and Tier 3 are as old Tier 3 and Tier 4, but literally just moved down a peg. I already kind of talked about this, but making a feat better on one hero isn't a rework, and in my opinion devalues the other versions of this feat, and I can't lie, the reasoning behind this change was a bit mind-boggling. The dev stated that some games you won't get Tier 3. Maybe if you're digging in your ass for fucking gold, go farm mid for 2 minutes, get 1 kill, or literally my favorite, boost the fucking objective for 2 minutes, and you've at least gotten Tier 3. Tier 4 had me surprised. I was expecting some super bullshit move, like it's like the insta deploy that we already have with old shooting stars, but again, color me surprised. I actually kind of like it. Does it feel cheesy that you get hit by one and you are confirmed to the second one? I mean, yeah, kinda. But he has so much wind up that you can outright just knock him out of it over and over again. And it's not the only feat in the game that uses this philosophy anyway, so it's just unjust to pin it on this one alone. Overall, again, as much as I really dislike this hero from the ground up standpoint, Tier 1 and Tier 4 are actually really good changes in my opinion, and I wouldn't mind seeing these in the game live patch soon. Overall, I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 7, even a 7.5 if I'm being generous out of 10, with the hopes that there's more unique Tier 2 and Tier 3 feats come to line, but would have no problems if they did go live. Peacekeeper has had the most attempts of a feat rework, and something has always pushed past what the community has saw acceptable to the game. So, did this rework see any difference? No. Peacekeeper at her core is an amazing duelist, but struggles hard when it comes to ganking or opening people up from external sides. Her Tier 1 is supposed to fix that issue, but for me, it's just not it. Projectiles in this game are monitor smashing at best, and uninstall the game at worst, so having a Tier 1 be a projectile that also bleeds is a bit of a reach to ask the community to be okay with. It's really not the worst thing in the game, but it implies that any game with a PK is going to be full of random bullshit off your screen. Front is what I would call a near perfect fighting game because of the lack of ranged capabilities that slow gameplay down or make it frustrating. But as I said, this is going to be an annoyance. Especially because, let's be real, people are most likely using this feat in a 1v1 scenario more often than teamfight, since again, Peacekeeper is just looking for a 1v1 at all times, so why not shoot someone you're already beating just for the sake of an easier kill? Blade Armor has me truly vexed. Why on earth would you buff an assassin's defensive capabilities instead of their offensive, right? But then I got to thinking about PK's offensive capabilities and I thought, okay, yeah, maybe they got this one right. After hitting a bleeding opponent, you gain a defense buff for a short time. I have actually no issue with this at all. I really don't think it's that bad or game breaking. Again, I don't think it should be turned to a damage buff for specific reasons, and for a Tier 2, I think this is pretty spot on. Sanguine Serrations is gotten the trend of what we've had today, and it's just Sharpened Blade, but literally just better. No, seriously, it's Sharpened Blade with the addition of a passive ability to reduce the cooldown of it when you hit a bleeding target. Not going into detail on why I don't like this, because I'm not going to give myself a fucking hernia repeating myself, but yeah, making existing feats better than other feats is just still not a good idea. And lastly, the one I disagreed with the most, Induced Fear. Induced Fear is your new Tier 4 that has a passive aura of fear itself, but instead of a 40% debuff, it's now 20%. There's one thing I think that needs to be in this game, it's feat utility, and the ability to actually misuse a feat. While this is seemingly a weaker version of fear itself, this feat is active every single team fight, without the need to activate it before the fight starts, the potential misuse, or any downsides of fear itself that could possibly come with it. Look, I get it, women are fucking terrifying, but in my opinion, you cannot have a Tier 4 be useful all the time without any potential downsides. And we shouldn't add feats that make your team fight better for simply fucking existing. Overall, I think this is majorly another failed attempt to make Peacekeeper's feats more viable, and while I do respect them trying to make Induced Fear work, sadly I think this feat is never going to be enjoyed unless it's literally less than useless or severely underpowered to negate every possibility this feat has. I have to give PK's new feats a 3 out of 10. And lastly, Berzerker. Swift Axe Throw is another throwable tier 1 with the added passive bonus that getting hit does reduce the cooldown of the feat. I think this is very creative, but I'm not going to switch up, and even seeing it for the first time, I was kind of baffled that someone was using a tier 3 feat 2 minutes into the game.
I was like, how the fuck did he throw 3rd feat? It's his 1st feat now.
Throwable feats are majorly disliked, and the only tier 1 throwable in the game is Fiery Tusk that does a whopping 5 damage and requires a target to be on fire to it to be actually utilized. This tier 2 is actually pretty cool. Upon getting hit, increased damage and movement speed for a short duration. I don't really like feats that reward losing, but this tier 2 I think fits quite well. I will say that the movement speed feels unneeded because I don't see much use for it. You could debate that you can close the distance, but if your opponent is already hitting you, then you're already pretty fucking hands deep into him. Unwavering Fury is probably the best designed feat in this entire rework for him. Upon use, gain infinite stamina and enhanced lights for a short duration. Since it's an active feat, it can and will be used improperly and can be wasted, but it also ties into the idea that this Zerk has gone kill crazy and just wants you fucking dead. The only problem I see is that this feat just lasts way too long. I mean, we're talking 20 seconds of infinite stamina on one of the most oppressive characters in the game. Maybe a 15 to 10 second timer would be a lot more balanced. But sadly, they tried to make Valhalla's Blessing work again, which I'm going to say outright doesn't work ever. Upon use, gain 7 seconds of invincibility. Now, this isn't like you don't take damage, but like you can get the shit kicked out of you and can't die. Kind of like... The issue is that with invincibility now, it's just a free stall move while making mistake after mistake. This is 7 seconds where no matter what, we cannot kill someone. That is 7 seconds enough for a team to rotate from point to point, where we could literally be using that 7 seconds to heal up before the next team fight. I understand you want to go above and beyond for this last feat, and you want to find a way to make it work, but I will say this outright, an invincibility feat will never work. It's 100% debatable that there are already feats in the game that do this already. Things like Phalanx, for example, just do make you invincible for that time because you just can't kill someone that fast. But just ask yourself this. While this feat is super cool on paper, do you want more feats in this game that make stalling way easier? But as an added positive, I will say that the effect on this feat is so fucking cool. Like, you guys outdid yourself on the grade A effects on him, and if it doesn't become a feat in the future, could you please put the effect on the tier 3 instead? Overall, I'm giving Zerks a 5 out of 10. There's room for improvement, but you cannot have a feat like his 4th feat ever work in terms of fun or balance. But obviously everything I say is not agreeable, and my only goal is to make these videos to give the developers the thoughts and insight they need. While I may come off as harsh sometimes, just remember that the loudest voices are the ones that care the most. Love you guys. Have a great day.
Oh, I'm just so fucking handsome! Oh my god!